We shouldn't have made African Americans prove their worth. We shouldn't have made it this way. But Black Americans didn't quit. They didn't give up. They persisted. And they continued to fight and prove that all men are created equal. And slowly but surely, we got it through our stiff heads, our thick minds that, yeah, we are all equal, and the government needs to end these racist policies. Brown versus the Board of Education. Linda Brown was denied access to the white school, forced to go across town to the black school. Now, it's not just Linda Brown, it's other girls and boys, but Linda Brown gets her name on the court case because, why did we choose Linda Brown? Because alphabetically her name came first. So here's the lesson, kids. Name your child. Well, you can't really change the last name, but if you could, give them a last name with a alphabetical A, B, or C. So with the help of lawyer Thurgood Marshall and NAACP, we will sue Brown will sue the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. And this court case will go all the way to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will rule, you know what? That Plessy versus Ferguson, we got to throw that out. Separate but equal, it's not cool. The 14th Amendment says that the states must protect everyone and treat everyone equally, and we are not treating Linda Brown, we are not treating these students equally by forcing them to go to a black school. Separate but equal doesn't add up. Here's how the reasoning works. Now, some people, no one's going to really argue this, but here's your devil's advocate of, no, it's equal. Like, let's follow the Plessy versus Ferguson line of separate but equal. Look, she still gets to go to school. She still gets equal access to an education. 2 plus 2 equals 4. 2 plus 2 equals 4. All the education, the books are still the same. It's equal. And that's a tough argument to win. And they'll argue, well, there's not enough resources. Well, the Supreme Court doesn't want to hear that. They want to say, look, you still get an education. But Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP understand that. And they know they've got to kind of find a way to get this thing through. We got to find a way to prove that Linda Brown is not being treated equal. Just going to a school, we got to go further. We're not going to win that argument. We're not going to win the argument saying that, no, well, this school's not quite as good. He goes further. Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP will argue that by separating the student, it has a psychological effect. By telling a student that they cannot go to this school, that they will interpret that as, well, I'm not good enough. So when you tell a black student that they can't go to the white school, they interpret it as, well, I'm not good enough. And if I'm not good enough, then why study at all? And so this policy is having disparate impacts. This policy is having an impact that's actually resulting in inequality. And so the Supreme Court will say, oh, okay, all right. That makes sense. So separate but equal doesn't really work. Now, it's based on the work of Kenneth Clark. What Kenneth Clark will do is he'll have a segregated student have to choose between a white doll and a black doll. And a segregated student, the student has been separated. The student has been told that they cannot go to the white school. They will often prefer the white doll and say that the black doll is bad. And so the argument that Kenneth Clark will make, that then Thurgood Marshall will use in the court case of Brown versus the Board of Education, is that when you segregate a student, they then feel inferior. And if they feel inferior, they're not going to work as hard, and they're not going to get an education. But this policy, this law the government is making by separating, it's making a student inferior. It's making them feel bad about themselves. So the state is not treating that student equally. Well, the problem with that was Kenneth Clark also, so he's like, segregation, negative psychological effect. So Marshall will argue that, the Supreme Court will hear it, and they win the court case. Cool, it makes sense. But it doesn't necessarily, because he also gave this study to students who were integrated, students who were not forced to go to different schools, students that were not segregated. And those students who went to schools with white students, well, they also preferred the white doll and didn't like the black doll. So, look, this is bad, possibly. There's some sort of impact that's happening, but it's not segregation that's doing it, right? The variable is not segregated schools. If they both prefer this doll, it's something else. It's a racist society. It's something else, but it's not separate. It's not separation. So if you look at that, you say, well, maybe we shouldn't have ruled separate but equal. No, separate but equal. We needed to end segregation. Segregation was wrong, but the reason that we used to get there, that was bad science. So they just kind of ignore that, and that's never taught in your AP history book. So bad science in segregation. So it's good that we don't have a segregated society. It's good that we are a step closer to equality, but it's not that good that we used bad science to get there. Now, Marxists, progressives, leftists, and Saul Alinsky will believe, look, the end justifies the means. Ending segregation no matter what. Ending inequality no matter what. And I'm with you. Ending equality is important. Ending segregation is important. Having rights for all citizens is important. But I may not be with you in doing whatever it takes. I don't want to lie to people to get to the end. I don't want to make stuff up to get to the ends that I want. But, it's up to you to decide. Like lying, cheating, stealing, bribing, extorting, coercing, anything is fair game as long as you reach your virtuous goal. I don't know if I'm right there with you. I think this is, I mean, it's good in the end. We ended segregation. Brown versus Board of Education. It's the right thing to do. It was the right decision. How we got there with bad science, I don't know if I want to repeat that. It's fine. Now, in the future, when we make changes, let's probably not lie about stuff. Let's not mislead people. Let's get there the right way. But hey, it's up for you to decide. A lot of states still do not want to integrate after the Brown versus the Board decision. And if they do, they're going to take their own time. Little Rock 9 is the first example of, all right, let's test this out. So separate but equal is thrown out. So let's integrate schools. Little Rock 9, these 9 students will be integrated into Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, and we will start the process of integration, and Arkansas will fight against this because there is a lot of racism in the South. There's a lot of racism in the state governments in the South. And so they will fight and fight and fight. Eventually, the federal government will force the state governments to follow this because that's how federalism works. Federal government has more power than the state government. So your state can say, no, we want to be racist all they want. It doesn't matter. When the federal government tells you to stop being racist, you stop being racist. And the Little Rock 9 attend school for a year, and we get integration. And the Little Rock 9 are actually, these girls and boys are escorted to school every day by the military because it's, I mean, you can look at these pictures. This is how crazy the times were. When we think about, yes, we have racism today. We have problems with race today that we need to work on. But black children are not escorted to school by the National Guard every day with guns to protect them. Our schools are integrated and they are equal. And we have made an amazing step forward. We have ways to go, but this is not the way that it is today. Thank God. And then unfortunately, what will happen at the end of the year, Arkansas will just close all the schools. Instead of Arkansas integrating all the schools, we've integrated the central school in Little Rock. But instead of Arkansas integrating all their schools and letting all the black children and all the white children go to school together, what Arkansas will do is close all their schools. Say, well, we can integrate or we'll just get rid of all of our schools. Unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. See you in video 2.